Environmental Justice Group is celebrating a victory following judgment in the quote-unquote deadly air case. The High Court has recognized the poor air quality in Mpumalanga, Highveld region as a breach of residents' constitutional right to an environment that is not harmful to their health and well-being. Well, let's bring in Bobby Peak, who is the Director of Environmental Organization Groundwork, for more insight into this case. So it is fascinating in that, this is an issue that has been of concern for some time, the air quality in the area that is known as the Highveld priority area. I didn't know until recently that there are regular readings of the air quality around the country, and in that area they tend to come out rather bad in terms of the quality of the air that people breathe. What do you read to be the import of this judgment, Bobby Peak?
I think, being the Human Rights Weekend, it is important to recognize that the judgment, speaks about the failure to govern and deliver clean air for the people of Mpumalanga as a human rights violation. Section 24 of our Constitution has not been met, and it's not been met because the minister and the state has not provided the conditions and taken action against the polluter. So that's really important to recognize. But it's also, we need to look at this in the context of a history. In 1995, Mandela met the South Durban community, and he recognized that air pollution was a big issue. He then asked General Bantu Alamisa to address it. We then, in 1998, had the Environmental Management Act. And in 2004, after 10 years after democracy, we got a law in place, the Air Quality Act, that said areas like Mpumalanga, areas like South Durban need to have special attention. And Mpumalanga became a high priority area. Government had to set in place a plan and act on that plan to make sure that air pollution is reduced. Sadly, it's not. And that's why we had to go to court. So this finding vindicates that the democracy we fought so hard for, to get in clean air as a democratic principle and right, is something that the state should deliver.
And of course, we don't get some of these actions declared to be violating people's human rights just for the sake of it. There's always the purpose that there should be a remedy. I see that part of the remedy is that the minister responsible, for the environment should actually promulgate regulations and make sure that they are enforceable.
I mean, that is the problem with South Africa, isn't it? Is that we often viewed by the rest of the world as a progressive country in terms of our laws and our policies. But what the world forgets is that South Africa often does not deliver on those policies and laws. And that's why, with the Vukani environmental movement and the Groundwork Trust, we decided to take legal action. Because 10 years ago, we were frustrated. Government was not listening to us. We had all the evidence that we ourselves took as air pollution samples and gave to government and said, do something. And they failed to do that. So then we went into a partnership with the Center for Environmental Rights, who with us and Vukani environmental movement monitored and followed government processes carefully, so that by 2019, we were, as all South Africans know the term, we were gutful. And so what we did is we went to court because government wasn't listening to us. And there are a couple of things that are really important in what the judge found. And I want to mention two. One is the judge said that all information collected on air pollution must be available to everybody all the time. You can't be hiding air pollution. You can't say no when we say we want the air pollution data and the monitoring data. So that's a victory for an open democracy. And that's really important. Something Groundwork and many communities around the country have been calling for. And what's also really critical is that the industry and Eskom has been for the last 10 years trying to not live up or meet the minimum emission standards, the standards that they have to follow in terms of what comes out of their chimneys. And the judge said, if you cannot meet new plant standards by 2025, the industries have to close. So we have to work urgently with government, with Eskom, with community, with unions to shift from the dirty energy model we have of Eskom and make sure Eskom today, tomorrow, starts pushing renewable energy and starts itself, putting in renewable energy facilities that they own.
Lastly, Mr. Peak, you probably will be able to give us a better sense, and I think let's end it with you giving us a better sense of the impact of this poor air quality that people in the affected areas breathe. I mean, I remember a few years ago trying to go for a run in Secunda, and I just couldn't do it. I had to go back to the hotel where I was staying from the fumes there. For me, it was just the smell, nothing more than that. But I imagine that from the work you have done, you would be able to talk to the actual impact beyond the inconvenience of a bad smell. And I know that, for instance, Kendal Power Station, Eskom will tell you that, they're constantly having to monitor what it's putting out into the atmosphere. So just the impact on people's lives.
So this is really important to recognize. Air pollution impacts upon people. I do today what I do because I live next to the engine oil refinery that polluted my neighborhood, and I was sick for many years with asthma. Now, I was fortunate I could leave the area, and this week, by the way, next week, the Presidential Commission on Climate Change is going to be visiting South Durban to hear the concerns of South Durban people. But in Mpumalanga, we have taken air pollution samples, we've done health studies, and not only are people sick, people are dying. And a study that we did, and with Mike Holland, and studies that Greenpeace did, and Mike Holland is a health expert and economist that works with the World Bank, shows that Eskom's pollution kills in excess of 2,500 people every year. Every year we have 2,500 excess deaths in Mpumalanga, in South Africa, because of the pollution. Many of those are the poor, the elderly, and the young, the vulnerable population. And our human rights in South Africa this weekend should protect those people first. The 6'6" rugby players are second.
All right, Bobby Peak, I've got to thank you for your time and your insights here on eNCA. Obviously, we will need now to speak to Eskom as well, because that is a startling claim that Bobby Peak has just made there. 2,500 excess deaths, he says, from the work that they have done. They find that those can be attributable to Eskom's failures on this issue of air quality. That is a big claim, and I do believe that in fairness, we do need to find out from Eskom what they have to make of that particular claim, what their perspective is. This is Today on eNCA.